Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss fill in the blanks with the correct forms of the verb. Fill in the blanks with the correct forms of the verb. And this question we see in ICSE 9th and 10th class, ISC 11th and 12th class. And this question comes in English language paper, and it comes to 9th and 10th class. It comes in 5th question A, and 11th and 12th we get it in 3rd question C. 9th and 10th class for 4 marks, and 11th and 12th for 5 marks. So let us learn how to fill the blanks with the correct forms of the verb. First thing is, read the paragraph, given paragraph carefully. Read the given paragraph carefully. Next, comprehend its meaning. Understand its meaning first. So read carefully and understand it. Then decide what tense the given paragraph is. We need to decide whether the paragraph given is in present tense and past tense. We have only 2 tenses, present tense or past tense. That we need to decide. First, read the paragraph carefully and understand the paragraph carefully. Understand the paragraph, and next we need to know whether the given paragraph is in present tense or past tense. And then we need to know, suppose if the paragraph is in present tense, then the blanks has to be filled using present tense forms. Suppose if the paragraph is given in past tense, then the paragraph blanks must be filled with past tense forms. So these are the present tense forms and these are the past tense forms. And we are very familiar with these forms while learning tenses and active passive voice. Anyway, let us recollect once again. V1 or V1 plus SRES. We use this form in simple present tense. In simple present tense, we use V1 and V1 plus SRES. If the subject is a third person singular, what are the third person singulars? He, she, it, or any name. If the subject is third person singular, then we add S or ES to the verb in simple present tense. So this is used in, this form is used in simple present. When it comes to the past tense, we use verb V2. Verb V2 we use in past tense. Next, present primary verbs, past primary verbs. What are these primary verbs? We have 3 primary verbs: be forms, do forms, have forms. These be form, do form, have forms, even though auxiliaries, sometimes we use them as main verbs. Present be forms are am, is, or. Past be forms are was, were. Present do forms do or does, and past did. And present have forms have or has, and past had. So, if at all you want to use be form, then if the paragraph is in present tense, we need to use am, is, are. Suppose if the paragraph is in past tense and we have to use be form, then we need to use was or were. Let's take example. He dash be lazy. Then here, being a present tense, we need to use the present form of be. So he is lazy. Suppose he dash be absent yesterday. He dash be absent yesterday. Now here the be form, we need to use past be forms because yesterday is a past indication, and here we need to use past be form. So he was absent yesterday. So here be forms, whenever you find bracket be, if it is if the paragraph is in present tense, then we need to use present be forms. If the paragraph is in past tense, we need to use past be form when it is given in the bracket. Now, primary verbs are 3: be forms, do forms, have forms. These are the present and these are the past. Next, do, does plus base form. So we need to know what is a base form. Base form. Every verb has a base form. Every verb has a base form. And that verb has 4 forms. The base form has 4 forms. V1, V2, V3, V4. What is V1? V1 is present. V2 past. V3 past participle. V3 past participle. And V4 present participle. So verb has a base form and that verb has 4 forms, and 4 forms are present form, past participle form, present participle form. Let us take example. Go. Go is the base form and it has 4 forms. Go, V1, went, V2, gone, V3, going. Adding ing to a base form. Adding ing to a base form. Here we need to remember we are not adding ing to V1 form. We are not adding ing to V1 form. You might have heard telling V1 plus ing. It is not that we are adding ing to V1, but we are adding to base form. So base form is go. All the verbs, for all the verbs, whatever the base form and V1 forms are same. Base form and V1 forms are same for all the verbs. Take another one. Play. Play is the base form and it has 4 forms. Present, play, that's V1. Played, V2, past form. Played, V3, past participle form. Playing, present participle, V4. So when you look at V2 and V3, so V2 is played and V3 is also played. Then how do we know that the verb is V3 or V2? Then it is a very simple thing to identify. If there is a helping verb and then played, then we need to consider it as V3. It is not V2. So helping verb plus V3. So played is V3 here. V3 is used along with helping verbs. Without helping verb, we can't use V3. Suppose there is no helping verb, just played, then we can say it is a V2. Now, playing, present participle. Here we added ing to the base form, not to the present form. So, base form plus ing. Base form plus ing is called present participle. Base form plus ing is called present participle. Take example B. B is the base form and it has 4. Present forms: am, is, are. Past: was, were. Past participle: been. And when it comes to the present participle, I have told you present participle adding ing form to the base form but not to the present form. So here we write being. We write here being. We add ing to the base form. We don't add ing to the am, is, or here. So that is the reason never say E1 plus ing. And always say base form plus ing. Base form plus ing. and this base form plus ing we can call it as V4 or present participle. We call it V4 or present participle. So look here, before go is the base form and V1 is the same. Play is the base form and V1 is the same. But whereas when it comes to be, base form, but the present forms are am, is, are, not be. Next, take do. Do is the base form. Do is the base form. Do, does, present forms. Did, past. Done, past perfect. Doing. So we add ing form to the base form. We don't add does in. We don't say does in. So we just add ing to do form. So do has present forms, two forms, do or does. Base form is do, but it has two present forms, do and does. Let's take have. Have, has, had, having. Present. So have is the base form and have has two present forms. Have, has. And has is used with third person singular. Third person singular. What are the third person singulars? We say he, she, it or any name, then we use has. And for the remaining persons, we use have. Right. So here we use do, does plus base form. And this form is used in present tense. If at all you want to make sentences in negative, present negative sentences, we use this form. And similarly, when we just speak, when we just question in present, then we use do or does base form. When it comes to the past, we use did plus base form. And mostly you might have heard saying did plus V1. Here it is wrong again. So we don't use V1 present form after did, we use only base form after did. That you need to remember. So even did plus base form we use past tense negative sentences. Past tense questions we use did plus base form. Next, am, is, are plus present participle. Present participle is nothing but V4. What is V4? Base form plus ing. Base form plus ing. Example, going. So am, is, are plus present participle. We use this form in continuous tenses. Present continuous tenses. And when it comes to the past continuous tenses, we use was or were plus present participle. Was or were plus present participle. Next, have, has plus V3. Have, has plus V3. Have or has plus V3 we use in perfect tenses. And when it is come to the present perfect, we use have as has plus V3. When it comes to the past perfect, then we use had plus V3. Had plus V3. Have, has plus been plus V4. V4 is present participle. Base form plus ing. This form we use in perfect continuous. Present perfect continuous. Have or has plus been plus V4. We use has third person singulars and have for all the remaining persons. So present perfect continuous, we use this form. When it comes to the past perfect continuous, we use this form. Had plus been plus V4. Present helping verb plus V3. So this form we use in present passive voice. Even similarly, past helping verb plus V3. And this we use past tense passive voice. So helping verb plus V3 we use in passive voice. If we use present helping verbs, then we consider it as a present passive voice, and we use past helping verb then plus V3, then past tense passive voice. So helping verb plus V3 we use in passive voice. Present modals plus base form. Present modals plus base. What are the present modals? Will is the present modal. Would is the past modal. Shall is the present modal. Should is the past modal. Can is the present modal. Could is the past modal. May is the present modal. Might is the past modal. Along with the present modals, we use base form, which means will go, would go. After present modals, we use a base form. Even after past modals, we use a base form. So these are the present forms and these are the past forms. So we need to be very clear about the forms. Now, there are three other forms. Past participle, V3. Present participle as a gerund. To infinitive, to plus base form. These three forms have no tense. These three forms, past participle, present participle, to infinitive, have no tense. They can be used in present or past. If the paragraph is in present, of course we use the present forms along with these forms. These three forms also can be used. Suppose past tense, all the past forms we use, at the same time we make use of these three. These three can be used in present tense and these three can be used in past tense. Now, when it comes to the past participle V3, we have discussed earlier, V3 we use along with the helping verb. Present perfect we use, passive voice we use. V3 we use along with the helping verb, but here we use past participle without helping verb. So we don't use helping verb. Without helping verb, we use here past participle. Like gone, read, seen, walked. Present participle as a gerund. Present participle we used previously for all continuous tenses. Here, present participle we use as a gerund. What is a gerund? It functions as a noun, though it is a verb. A form is a verb, but functions like a noun. So it is called a gerund. Like going, reading, seeing, walking. These are form is a verb, but functions as a noun. Next, to infinitive. To infinitives are like to go, to read, to see, to walk. So when do we use past participle, present participle, to infinitive? These three forms act like a secondary verb in a simple sentence. Secondary verb in a simple sentence. Now, what is a simple sentence? A simple sentence should have a single subject and one main verb. Only one main verb should be there. Simple sentence should have a single subject and only one main verb is supposed to be there. Suppose we want to say more than one action in a simple sentence. If at all you want to say one action in a simple sentence should not have more than one verb. But we need more actions or more verbs in a simple sentence. Then we make use of past participle, present participle, to infinitive. If you want to make more verbs in a simple sentence accepts only one main verb. But if I want to make more verbs in a simple sentence and all the remaining verbs we consider as a secondary, making them into past participle, present participle as a gerund, to infinitive. Let's take example given here. She was worried by the news. A simple sentence. She called the hospital. This is another sentence. So we have two sentences and two main verbs. Was worried, called. Now we have two main verbs. two different sentences. We want to synthesize or we want to join these two sentences and make into one simple sentence, which means we need only one main verb. And the remaining we need to change into past participle or present participle or to infinitive. Look here. Was worried. She was worried by the news. It is a passive form. Here the verb given was worried, the main verb was worried is in a passive form. So when it is a passive form, we use past participle. Then we write worried by the news, comma, she called the hospital. Worried by the news, she called the hospital. So if it is a passive form, verb is in the passive form, then we just remove the helping verb and then subject. We just write worried by the news, she called the hospital. Look at the second example. The farmer jumped on his horse. He rode to the market. Here two verbs, jumped, rode. Here verb is in V2, here verb is in V2. We need only one main verb in order to make it a simple sentence. Now the other verb has to be changed into, here I am going to change this V2. If the verb is V2 or V1, we just make use of a present participle as a gerund. So we use gerund here. Then jumping on his horse, he rode to the market. So verb, if the verb is V2 or V1, then we just change into present participle. If it is a passive voice, then we change into past participle. So for more understanding when to use a past participle, what are the rules, when to use a present participle, what are the rules, the link is given in the description. You watch the video so that you will come to know more about using past participle and present participle. Look at the last one here. Speak the truth, I am not afraid. I speak the truth, I am not afraid. Speak is a verb, am is another verb. Then we combine writing I am not afraid to speak the truth. See here, I use to speak, to infinitive. Sometimes we can use even present participle. When to use present participle, when to use past participle. Look here, whether you use a gerund or an infinitive, what is a gerund? Gerund is nothing but present participle. Gerund or an infinitive depends on the main verb in the sentence. Invited. I invited a friend to attend the ceremony. Invited is the verb and invite takes to infinitive. Please remind me to wash the dishes. Remind is the main verb and remind takes to infinitive. I advised him to learn English. Advised is the main verb and it takes to infinitive. I suggested him learning English. Suggested is the main verb. It takes gerund or present participle. I denied knowing about his secret. Denied is the main verb and it takes gerund. Don't risk losing your job. Risk is the main verb and losing is gerund. So, gerund or infinitive depends on the main verb. In the description, I have given the link. Which verbs take gerund and which verbs take to infinitive. And some verbs they take both gerund and to infinitive. So the link is given in the description. You can learn which verb take gerund and which verb take to infinitive. Now, an exam point of view. How do we fill blanks using past participle? So, an exam point of view we are discussing now. How do we fill past participle in the blank? Already we discussed. Part participle acts like a secondary verb in a simple sentence. Look at the lines given here. Ranjit, 10 years old boy, sick. His mother alone take him to hospital. Recover from the sick, the boy came home. Now let us see whether the paragraph is in past or present. So 10 years old boy sick, his mother alone, so it is past tense. So we need to fill the blanks with the past forms. 10 years old boy, be. So past forms be. We have discussed. What are the past forms be? Was or were. Be past forms are was or were. 10 years, Ranjit was. Ranjit, 10 years old boy, was sick. His mother alone, past form. Take past form, we took. So past forms we are going to fill the blanks using past forms. We took past, take we took. Took him to hospital. Recover from the sick, the boy home. Look at the sentence here. Recover from the sick, the boy came home. Come home. Here, when you look at the sentence, it is a simple sentence, but here are two actions we need to fill. We need to fill two blanks here. One is with recover, another one is with home. So two actions has to be filled in a simple sentence. One must be main verb, other we can make use of past participle, present participle to infinitive. Past participle, if the sentence is a passive voice, we use a past participle. If the sentence is in present tense or the past tense, V1 or V2, we use a present participle. Look here. The boy, of course, immediately after the subject, we always use main verb. The boy came. Immediately after the subject, we need to use main verb. Now look at that word recover. Now the question is whether to use past participle or present participle. That is the question now. Let us take he as the subject, the boy now. The boy was recovered. The boy was recovered from the sick. So passive voice. So now we need to use here recovered. So passive voice, we just remove helping verb and the subject. And we use past participle. Being a passive voice, we use past participle. Recovered from the sick, the boy came home is the answer. Let's take another example given below. Once upon a time, in the days when Jeeves and James roamed the land, there lived a farmer named Baba. Now we need to understand the lines first and next decide whether the lines are in present or past. Once upon a time, roamed, and these indicate the paragraph, the lines are in past tense. So we need to fill the blanks with the past tense. There lived a farmer. So there is a dummy subject here. So we use lived. There lived a farmer. This is a simple sentence again. Being a simple sentence, we can't use two main verbs. One main verb has to be used immediately after the subject. The next one we need to decide whether it must be used past participle or present participle. Name Baba Ayub. So let us take farmer. Farmer was named Baba. This is the simple sentence. Farmer was named Baba. But we don't use main verb. We don't use another main verb. We need a secondary verb. So simply, it's being a passive form. We just go with named. Named Baba Ayub. So this is how we need to fill the blanks with the past participle. So past participle is used in as a secondary verb, in a simple sentence if the sentence is passive voice, and the main verb has to be used immediately after the subject, and the next blank or the next verb must change into past participle if it is a passive voice. Now we learn gerund. Gerund is a present participle, base form plus ing. And it is also acts like a secondary verb in a simple sentence. Let's look at the example given. He was gazed at a couple of heron fish in the muddy water. When he feels something bump his elbow, look around, he find at his side a little goat, jet black and soft as velvet with lovely grey eyes. So first understand the lines and then decide what tense is supposed to be used. Was past tense. So we need to fill the blanks using past tense. He was gazing. He was gazing at a couple of heron, a kind of a bird. Now, fish in the muddy water. Already we have used one main verb here after the subject. It is a simple, entirely one sentence. He was gazing at a couple of heron fish in the muddy water. One sentence. Already we used one main verb, was gazing. Now the second verb supposed to be the secondary verb. Secondary verb means either past participle, present participle or to infinitive. Heron. Now we need to just see, take from here, look from here. A couple of heron was fishing. That's supposed to be a simple sentence. If you make it as a simple sentence, don't forget about the remaining sentence here. A couple of heron was fishing is supposed to be a simple sentence. Now we don't want two simple sentences. We want only one simple sentence. It is mixed and joined, synthesized. So we don't want here main verb. You just go with only fishing. A couple of heron fishing. I was gazing at a couple of heron fishing in the muddy water. When he feel something bump his elbow. It is another sentence. So we just go with the main verb after the subject felt. We need to write wheat being the paragraph in past tense. Felt something bump his elbow. Another. Look round, he find at his side a little goat, jet black and soft as velvet with lovely grey eyes. Now this is supposed to be a simple sentence again. And two verbs. Look, fine. After the subject, we always go for the main verb. So here we write found, V2. And now we need to decide whether it should be supposed to be filled with simple present participle or past participle. Now just take again he as a subject. He looked around. This is of course simple sentence. He looked around. But we don't want a simple sentence. We already have a main verb, so we don't want a simple sentence again. And there is no subject here. So we need take only looked. Now looked is V2. I told you if the verb is V1 or V2, then we go for present participle. So we go for present participle. Passive voice, past participle. If it is a verb is in V1 or V2, then we just go with the present participle. Then answer is looking. Looking around, he found at his side a little goat, jet black and soft as velvet with lovely grey hairs. This is how we use gerund or how we use present participle. To infinitive. Save your life. You must give me the keys of the safe. After the subject, we always go for main verb. After must, we just use a base form. Must give me the keys of the safe. Then we just change into to save. This is a simple sentence and we are using to infinitive. To save your life, you must give me the keys of the safe. We go to Agra last week, visit the Taj Mahal. Here, we is the subject. Immediately after the subject, we just go with the main verb, went last week there. So we went to Agra to visit. It's a simple sentence. It is a simple sentence. We don't use two main verbs. The robber, subject, took out, V2, we use V2, took out his knife to frighten the travelers. The robber took out his knife to frighten the traveler. So this is how we use past participle, present participle, or as a gerund, and to infinitive. We need to remember some note points while filling the blanks. First thing. What is the first thing? If there is a conversation means sentences in inverted commas in paragraph. Fill the blanks with the present or past based on the given. Even though the given paragraph is in past tense, even though the given paragraph is expressed in past tense, if there are some quotations or if there is a conversation, then we need to use present or past based on the situation. Most of the times we use present, even though paragraph is in past, even though paragraph is given in the past, being conversation, if there is a conversation, then we need to fill the blanks with the present. Let us take example given here. One day, a millionaire went to a hotel in New York and asked for the cheapest room they have. What the price of the room? He asked. The manager tell him, is that the cheapest room you have? I stay by myself and only need a small room, the millionaire said. So the given paragraph is in past. One day, said. These words tell us the given paragraph is in past tense. So let us go fill in the blanks with the past tense. But be careful, if conversation comes between, we need to move back to the present. One day a millionaire went, and is a past tense, a hotel in New York and asked for the cheapest room they had. Past tense. See here, conversation began. What? So we don't use here be past form, we use be present form because it is the situation that is going on now, the conversation that is going on now. So we need to use present be form. What are the present be forms? Am, is, are. Now what is? Even though paragraph is in past tense, asked, had, being there is a conversation, we use a present. What is the price of the room? The conversation completed here. Sentences inverted commas completed here. Again we go back to the past. Asked. Please stop. The manager told. Past tense. The manager told him. Again conversation began. Is that the cheapest room you have? Present tense. I stay. This entire thing is in conversation up to here. I stay by myself and only need a small room, the millionaire said. So, if there is a conversation, paragraph, fill the blanks with the present or past based on the situation. But most of the time, we just use a present tense if conversation comes between. Next very important point. When two actions connected by a linker, what are the linkers? After, before, as, when, by the time, etc. If two actions connected by a linker and these two actions happened one after the other, not simultaneously, one after the other, the first completed action must be expressed in past perfect. What is the form of the past perfect? Had plus V3. If two actions happened in the past, one after the other, and joined by a linker, and then the first completed action must be expressed in past perfect. Suppose if two actions happen simultaneously and joined by the linker, we don't use past perfect. We use only simple past. Look at the examples given here. After they walk for a while, they see an isolated. First, we need to identify whether there is a linker or not. Linker is here after, and now decide whether they happened simultaneously or one after the other. They walk for a while. They see an isolated. So simultaneously happened. Walking and seeing simultaneously. So they walked. Here things happen simultaneously, so we fill the blanks with simple past. They walked for a while. They saw an isolated cottage. Look at the second one. The house now empty as Mr. and Mrs. Sharma went to the market. Now here are linkers. So first be careful with the linkers. See whether there is a linker. If there is no linker, no problem. We don't worry about past perfect. Past perfect has to be used if there is a linker and two actions happen one after the other. Now as is mentioned, now let us see whether this one after the other. The house is now empty and Mr. and Mrs. Sharma to the market. So one is empty here, another one is went to the market is another one. Now whether these two things happen simultaneously or one after the other. Which is the first and which is the second? Went to the market is first, empty is the next. So this sentence has to be filled with the past perfect. Had plus V3. Had gone. The house was. This we need to fill with the simple past. So B form. Past form of the B was. Now empty as Mr. and Mrs. Sharma had gone to the market. You need to remember a point here. Very rare we get past perfect in the examination. Very rare. And these days, the paper is made very easy. Just they give had in the question itself. And after had they give a blank. So simply you need not to worry about whether the first action or the second action. Simply you just go with V3 because had is given already. And this using past perfect is very rare in paragraphs. Very rare we use in paragraphs. If at all it comes, then we need to be careful. Two actions must be there and joined by a linker. Two actions must be there, joined by a linker, and actions has to be happen one after the other. Look at the last one. Two carpenters work on Mr. Sharma's roof. When they stop work at 6 p.m., they leave their ladder lean against the house. Now here, two carpenters were working on. It's a simple sentence and we just go were working. Two carpenters were working on Mr. Sharma's roof. When, it's a linker. When they stop work at 6 p.m., so two sentences here. One is stop work, the other sentence is leave. Now joined with linker when. Now let us see whether these actions happen simultaneously or one after the other. When they stop work and they leave their ladder. So simultaneously happen. So stopping and leaving is a simultaneous. So we just go with the simple past. Stopped. When they stopped to work at 6 p.m., they left the ladder. Now look here. They left their ladder, lean against the house. Simple sentence. Already we used the main verb after the subject. Now we need to see whether we have to use present participle or past participle here. Ladder, their ladder against the house. Consider only from here. Their ladder was leaning against the house. So we don't want helping verb here. We just take leaning. So answer is they left their ladder leaning against the house. Leaning against the house. We use present participle as a gerund. So past perfect tense must be expressed if two actions completed in the past, one after the other. The first completed action must be expressed in past perfect. Note 3. If clause. So for better understanding what is if clause, how to change if sentences, and how to combine sentences using if clause, then the link is given in description. You just watch the video so that you will have a complete idea of if clause or if condition. Let us see in brief here. If clause is in present tense, V1, then main clause supposed to be present modal plus base form. What are the present modals? Will, shall, can, may, plus base form. If it is a go, just example, go. Will go, shall go, may go or can go. If clause is V2, if clause is V2, then we use past modals plus base form. Past modal plus base form. What are the past modals? Would, should, could, might, plus base form. Base form again go. Would go, should go, might go, can go. Even though it is V2, we don't use here V2, we use only base form. Next, if clause is had plus V3, if clause is had plus V3, then the main clause must be past modal plus have plus V3. Past modal would, should, could, might plus have plus V3. So past modal plus have plus V3 must be used if clause is had plus V3. Let us look at the examples here. If I, knowing your address, I would have come to your house. Would have come. Would have come. So the given is past modal and have form and V3. Then if clause must be had plus V3. Then we need to fill the blank here. If I had known. If I had known your address, I would have come to your house. He will be allowed to write exam if he paid a fee. Will be allowed. Will plus base form. B is the base form. Will plus base form. To write the exam. Will plus base form. Present modal plus base form. Main clause is in present modal plus base form. Then if clause has to be filled with V1. If he pays. We use, pays. So we add S to the verb here. The reason is pays. If he pays. Third person singular. If the subject is a third person singular and if the verb is in V1, then we need to add S or ES. If I were you, I win the race. Were V2. If a clause is V2, then we need to fill the blank with the past model plus base form. If I were you, I would win. Past model plus base form. I would win the race. I would win the race. So if a clause comes in a paragraph, if a clause comes, then we need to know these three rules. Another important thing. When I wish, the phrase comes I wish and subject, then the blank has to be filled with V2. Even though paragraph is in present and past, but if we come across this if I wish and subject, then the blank must be filled with V2. When you just see it's a time, and the blank must be filled with to infinitive. It's a time plus a subject. If you see it's a time plus a subject, the blank must be filled with V2. And when you see suggested, the blank must be filled with the present participle. So whether the given paragraph is in past or present, these four rules you have to follow. I wish I had a car. I wish I had a car. After I wish and then subject, then we say V2, had a car. It's a time to play. Again, it's a time after we use to infinitive. It's a time, subject is here. It's a time, subject. It's a time, subject. Then we need to fill blanks with V2. It's time we played. So even though paragraph is in present, we need to follow the same rule. Even though paragraph is in past, we need to follow the same rule. He suggested me watching. He suggested me watching TV. After suggested, we use past participle. Now we take a paragraph, and this is from 12th class previous papers. This is from 12th class previous papers. Let us see. First, read the paragraph. Second, understand the paragraph. Third, decide whether the paragraph is in past or present. First, read the paragraph and understand its meaning. Right. Now, we decide whether the paragraph is in present tense or past tense. One day, I be in the lunch line, and there I saw a pile of apples. The teacher in charge stared at me and said, past tense, just take one. So these words, said and saw, tell us the blanks, the paragraph is in past tense. So the blanks has to be filled with past tense. Let us go one after the other. One day I be, past tense form, past form of the be first. We don't use were here because I subject. I was in the lunch line, and there I saw a pile of apples. The teacher in charge stared, past tense, stared at me and said. Now look here, it began inverted commas now. So when inverted commas comes, we need to remember, we need to use present or past based on the situation. Now the situation is going on, it's a conversation, so we go with the present tense. Just take, we don't use a took because it's a conversation. Just take one. God is watching. God is watching. The teacher in charge stared at me and said, we used past tense here. The reason is the verb, suppose the paragraph is in past tense. Stared at me and said, just take, inverted commas begin. So we just go with the present tense now. Take one. God is watching. Now inverted commas over. So we go back again to the past tense. So I took. So I took an apple and the line moved on. And the line moved along. At the next table, there, again be, we use past form. There was a pile of chocolate chip cookies. I not to know. So we are using a past tense. We need to make a negative sentence. I told you in past tense negative sentences are expressed using did plus base form. Present tense negative sentences are expressed with do or does plus base form. Past tense negative sentences are expressed with did plus base form. Now did, not, base form. No is a base form. Did not know. I did not know what to do. This means when you just make a sound, when you call somebody's attention, we use this word piss. The kid behind me whispered. Past tense again. Whispered. Whispered. The kid behind me whispered. Again inverted commas speaking. So we go back to the past. Present. Take all you want. God is watching the apple. Take all you want. God is present tense because inverted commas. God is watching the apple. So this is how we need to fill the blanks. Let us take another one. And this is taken from 10th class, previous papers. One morning, the first blank is already filled, saw. So first you need to read the paragraph carefully. So read the paragraph carefully. Right. So one morning I saw the python curled up on the dressing table. I saw, so past tense. So the paragraph has to be filled with the past tense. Keep that in mind. It was gazing at its own reflection in the mirror. It's a simple sentence, one blank, so it was gazing. Was gazing in the mirror. I go for grandfather, but by the time I went for past tense, I went for grandfather, but by the time, look here, linker, by the time we return to the room, the python move on. So we have two actions here, return and move, and joined by a linker. Now we need to decide whether the blank has to be filled with the past perfect or both with the simple past. Both supposed to be simple past means has to be happened simultaneously. Past perfect means one must be happened earlier than the other. Let us look. Return to the room, python move on. Which is the first? Returning to the room or python move on is the first. By the time we return to the room, the python moved on, which means python was there earlier. So then we go with the had moved. Had moved. By the time we returned, by the time we returned to the room, the python had moved on. He was seen in the garden, and once the cook saw him, crawl up the ladder. So here, saw, one main verb is used after the subject. Again, another verb, we can't use a main verb. We need to go for present participle or past participle. Once the cook saw him. here crawl what? Who is crawling here? The python. So python, suppose if you make it a simple sentence, I'm trying here. Python was crawling. Python was crawling. So Python was crawling is a simple sentence. Was crawling is a main verb, but we don't want the main verb. We just want only participle, either past participle or present participle. So we just remove was and Python. We just use the word crawling. So crawling up the ladder to the roof. Then we found him on the dressing table again. Look here. We found him on the dressing table again. We need to mention another verb again. Already we used one main verb in a simple sentence. So we can't use again another main verb. So we need to change this admire into present participle or past participle. Found him on the dressing table again. Now just go again for the simple sentence. He was admiring. He was admiring. So we say he was admiring himself, but we don't want main verb. So we remove was and we remove he. So we just go with admiring, present participle. Here also we use a present participle. It's not a passive voice. If it is a passive voice, we might have used past participle. He was admiring is a present continuous, so past continuous. So we just use, we just remove was and he that go with admiring. Admiring himself in the mirror. He's trying to look better for Aunt Mabel. I said. I regretted this. I regretted this remark immediately because grandmother overheard and held up my pocket money for the rest of the week. So this is how we fill the blanks. Let's take another example. So read the paragraph carefully and understand it first. Right. Breathing is good. Is. Now decide whether it is a present or past. Is. So the given paragraph is in present tense. We need to fill the blanks using present. Breathing is good. On this we can. Present, so we use can. Agree, that is why. Sleep apnea. A condition in which sufferers repeatedly stop. Present tense, stop breathing and awake during the night is so distressing and dangerous. Once see, breathing is good. On this we can agree. That is why sleep apnea, a condition in which sufferers repeatedly stop breathing and awake during the night is so distressing and dangerous. Doctors have. Present. We are using only present because the paragraph is in present. Doctors have or doctors has. Doctors plural. So we use have. Doctors have long known that the majority of people with sleep apnea also have. Here also have because people plural. Have gas and reflux. So they often treat. Suppose if it is a third person singular, we need to add a serious, but here it is a plural they. So they often treat the reflux with heartburn medication. To prove the connection between reflux and sleep apnea, scientists at an army school observe apnea patients as they. See here, all these is a present. Suddenly these lines talking about the past incident that they have done in a hospital. Scientists at an army hospital. So here we go back to past tense again. Observed. So we use past tense because this is a present, and again they are talking about the past event. Observed apnea patients as they were sleeping. Were sleeping. So we use the past tense. As they were sleeping. They found, past tense, they found that reflex could in fact be the cause of many nighttime awakenings. So this is how we fill the blanks. Let's take one more example. Read the paragraph carefully and understand it, and then decide what tense is supposed to be used. First, read the paragraph carefully. Right. The other day. Now we decide whether the paragraph is supposed to be filled with past or present. The other day. Debating in our school, we about the club and now how many students interested in it. Then we began to talk about the rules and the regulations govern the club. One of us could the persons, and we began. So the given paragraph is in past tense. We need to fill this in, filled with past forms. The other day we discussed the setting up of a debate. The other day we were discussing the setting up of a debating club in our school. We talked about the club. And how many students were interested. And how many students were interested in it. B form, past B form, were interested in it. Then we began, past form of began. And then we began to talk about the rules and the regulations. See, look here. We began to talk about the rules and the regulations. In a simple sentence, we have to use another one. Then we need to decide whether it's supposed to be past participle or present participle. And regulations. We began to talk about the rules and regulations governing, because it's not a passive voice. Rules and regulations governing the club. None of us could. Past modal, we need after past modal always base form. So don't think that being it's a past we need to use agreed. No. After modals, past modals or present modals, we need to use only base form. Agree. None of us could agree, and we began to argue. Here we use to infinitive after began. Began verb accepts it. Receives or accepts only to infinitive. Began to argue. Finally, our English teacher, past form of have, had to be informed, and she came and broke up the meeting. Sir, you may get a doubt here. Sir used here came and again broke V2. Now here, these two verbs are joined by a word and. So it is not two verbs in a simple sentence. Here two verbs are joined by and, so we use to in simple past. To be informed, and she came and broke up the meeting. So this is, look here. So even though we filled all the blanks with the past, we rarely guessed past perfect. So most of the times, remember, most of the times the blanks has to be filled with V2 or V1 and present participle or past participle. Even the present participle is very common when compared to past participle. And sometimes we use to infinitive. So past perfect is very rare and we need to be very careful using past perfect. So this is how fill in the blanks with the correct form.